you really need to stress test your retirement plan in a number of ways, but one of them is inflation. So you get your plan in as best as you can, you know, all the data as reasonable as you think you can make it. You can use whatever you want for inflation. I tend to use something close to the historical average, as I said, 3%, but then I'm going to start making changes. Well, what if it's 5%? What's that going to look like? You know, what if it's really bad and it's 8%, right? And so that's the point. You want to stress test your portfolio and see what the results are. And that'll tell you just how sensitive your plan is to these assumptions. Keeping in mind one other thing. To me, inflation matters the most with those expenses you can't avoid. You know, your housing expenses, you know, healthcare, food, clothing. It matters for other expenses like traveling and eating out and all those sorts of things, but you have more control over those, right? So if inflation really gets bad, you can just maybe skip some traveling. I mean, you may not want to do it, but you could. You probably can't skip your next meal, you know, or you got to pay your utilities. And so I also sort of dive down into what are my expenses that I absolutely have to cover in retirement, and what if inflation is higher for those? But for other expenses, more flexible expenses, you know, I still factor in inflation, but I realize that I have more control over those expenses. And that's, I think, it's very natural for folks when inflation is high to cut back, and you cut back on those kinds of expenses that you can. So that's what I do. I don't know if it's the best approach. Maybe you use a different approach, and if you do, love to hear about it in the comments below. I tend to start with something near the historical inflation rate, and then I play around with it and see just how can I break my retirement plan? What kind of inflation rate would I need to break my retirement plan? And how robust then is my plan? If just a little bit of inflation is going to really cause me some big problems, then, you know, I want to think about other ways and changes and things I might be able to do, work a little bit longer. You know, it may not be your ideal, but maybe that's the best for your plan, or working a little bit of part-time or cutting back in some ways. Again, depends on your specific circumstances, but that's my approach.